Listen, people, we are back for another show. Is the late night roundup. We're going to be talking all things transfers, all things football, particularly in the Premier League. But it seems at the moment that we can't just talk about the Premier League because the Saudi League is taking over and it's buying everybody and everything, it seems, or at least trying to do that. As ever, I'm your host, Dan Potts, for this evening, and I'm with my good friend. Welcome back to the show, Emilio. How are you, mate?
Hello, Dan. Nice to have you. Nice to be back. It's been a couple of months now since the end of
It
last
has.
season. The 1 minute we're talking about a great season of Fulham and disappointed to finish 10th. The next minute, everyone's talking about us being the first team to get relegated with all this bloody nonsense with the Saudis, and it's nonsense. It really is a load of nonsense. But money talks, eh? Money talks.
Listen, it does talk. And before we go into Fulham, what do you make of this Saudi stuff? Because at the moment, it's kind of getting in the way of a lot of Premier League players and a lot of Premier League clubs. Not just Premier League, you're looking at other leagues as well that they're going to be going for. But you can see why people are concerned. You can also see why people are looking at this now as a money-making situation. You can also see why there's potential concern from some fans that think these guys are minted. They will basically buy their way into a Champions League and buy their way into saying hello to the world as a country, as far as football's concerned. So, talk to me, man. What's your thoughts on this Saudi Arabia stuff?
Yeah, we've talked about it off air about we thought, with all the China stuff many years ago, same thing, we thought that was going to take off. That never really took off. American League, all the people going for mega bucks in the American League, that really hasn't taken off. And you're getting players at the end of their careers. But these guys are coming in, not only just getting players in the early 30s past their peaks, they're trying to get all these little mid 20s and upper age people at their peaks, playing at the
Yeah.
top height of their careers. So clearly these guys have got nothing to lose. They've got millions, billions and billions of pounds literally to throw away. How many of these owners now own Premier League clubs, Serie A clubs, Bundesliga clubs? Literally, they're dominating the world and they're here to stay. I can't see them going away. Then their money is not a problem for them. It's about attracting the right level of interest. I use Abramovich as an example. He was lost making at Chelsea, but he had one thing he was proud of: winning trophies for Chelsea at whatever cost it came for. And then we look at that, multiply that now with the Saudis. They're here to stay. They want to win trophies. They want to be successful, and they're going to attempt whoever they possibly can. If it means it creates more recognition in the global market, they can get the right players, the merchandise, the sponsorship, all that good stuff. So they're not going to go away, and they are destroying this league, and they're destroying the clubs like Fulham, who. How can we compete? How can we compete with what they're throwing on the table? Supposedly throwing on the table. I'm not buying all this speculation. A lot of it, I think, is nonsense. I don't believe all of it, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But I know there's no smoke without fire. But to your point, Dan, they're here to stay. These guys, and look, they're running a lot of clubs in the Premier League. They're going to buy more clubs, and they want to come and buy Fulham and spend billions and make us a top 4 club like Newcastle United are. Then bring the money on, bring it on. But I love my club for what it is. It's got its values. I love my club, and let's just hope we can fight these people off. And the people who have been tempted want to show they can still prove themselves in the Premier League rather than just going for one thing, which is unfortunately, Johnny Cash.
Yeah, and I must admit, when there was all these links with Chelsea players going to Saudi Arabia, I was on this channel saying something's a bit sus here. Like, why are they buying 5 Chelsea players? Is there some connection? Then they're just buying everybody now. So I took that back and said, actually, I apologise to Chelsea fans and thought I was ripping into them because it wasn't about that at all. It just seemed to me that they were the first club that they seemed to go for. It just seemed strange that Todd Bowley had this link out there, and then all of a sudden the Chelsea players are coming to all the clubs. Now it's happening to everyone. They've gone for Neves. They're going for Mitrovic, it seems. They want the players that I'm really surprised that have gone there. Jordan Henderson and Fabinho looking at going. Apparently, they're looking at Partey and Pepe. Where does this stop? This is absolutely crazy, to be fair. I just want to bring this comment in from Chaitanya. Big up, Chaitanya. I hope you're well, bro. He's putting a super chat. Big up. Says, once the Saudi leagues have sorted out TV rights, there'll be a proper thing. Remember, they've integrated golf now, too. They have a plan in place. It seems that way. Jamie Carragher made comments, didn't he? And a few people were started slating him, saying, oh, now Gerrard's gone over there. He's quiet. But actually, he was quite vocal to start with about, look, I'm worried. They've sorted it out with golf, and they will try and do it with football. They want to get that World Cup now. It's been over in Qatar. They want that. And they're also going to want to try and make their league the biggest league. Now, I still don't think it will ever be because the players they're bringing into the majority of them, like we say, it's very rare, but the players like Milinkovic, Savic, Neves, yeah, they've all got to their late 20s, but the majority of them are like 30 plus, like the Jordan Hendersons, the Benzema's, the Koulibalys, those type players. So I don't think it'll ever be massive, you know, like
No.
said it could be top 5 at one stage in the world, but I don't think it'll ever get any higher than that. There will be people that want to go and watch Benzema playing with Kante and Ronaldo playing against these players. Excuse me, but I really don't think it'll ever get to those hypes. But what's your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of people saying it's like corrupt or that it's all linked with money. Do you think there's anything to that, or is it just literally money talks, like you say, and that's as far as it goes?
There is a bit of corruption, that money, that wealth, the money they've generated over generations. That dare I say, a lot of it is blood money. I get it, but it's they've got the money. Then they can do. Money does talk, and they can do what the hell they like. And this will, I think, also shift the structure of maybe some of the more domestic European leagues as well. There was all this talk about the European Super League, if you remember all these years ago. That died of death. Don't be surprised there'll be a collaboration of all these European clubs ganging together and then start to pitch in and create the European Super League. So I think it's going to change the game of football as we know it from a personal perspective. I think it's going to ruin it. I think the domestic league setup will probably change in maybe another generation's time. You'll end up seeing no more Europe Premier League. It's going to be overtaken by a European. Then what happens next? The World Cup as we know it. That will change. Lot's going to change. And I think football as we know it now, let's appreciate what we've got, because the landscapes are changing. And we always, as football fans for many generations, we want clubs to be successful. We want trophies. Pete, hello, mate. Nice to see you. It's Newcastle Champions League. You want, as a fan, you want to enjoy that. You don't want to then suddenly being, you're getting all these different, Saudis coming in and changing the game and taking away that privilege and that joy of seeing your club hitting the heights of football as a fan. I just want Fulham Football Club, Newcastle, just to be the clubs they are traditionally been for the last 130 years, not being overtaken by all these bloody expensive owners who can come in, throw their money, and basically change the soul of the clubs. I don't want that. If that's the case, then sod football. I'll go and watch something else. I don't want that anymore. And I don't want the soul of Fulham Football Club changing because of these wealthy people around the world. It's going to change things. I think we just have to accept that. And how do clubs respond? How do owners respond? And how do the leagues respond? More importantly, we've got to fight this off. Otherwise, they're going to come in and control and change the football that we love and breathe every single day of our lives.
Yeah, listen, I've got to bring Pete in here before we go into the Fulham and Mitrovic and Silva stuff. Pete, how do you feel about this, bro? You've got Saudi Arabians out close to Newcastle now that have done very, very well for you already. Everyone's really buzzing as far as Newcastle are concerned. How does it make you feel when fans are talking about the corruption and the fact that, they'll just buy buy players and then loan them back to Newcastle and all this corrupt stuff you hear? Like, how does it? Can you see both sides, or as a Newcastle fan, are you a little bit like, I don't really care, man, as long as the Newcastle were doing well? Like, does it change for you? Does he have concerns about football as a sport?
When I have an issue when people mention about the fact that they're just going to loan them back to Newcastle, blah blah blah, because we've had this conversation in a previous show a couple of weeks ago, Potts, where people were kind of like pointing the finger, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It hasn't happened, and to be fair, in the media. Newcastle, Eddie Howe has said, it's not something we've looked at. It may well happen in the future, but it's not something we've looked at all. Like, people are already beating us with a stick before it's even happened. Like, and we're kind of being pointed the finger at when we've not done anything like that. You've got other clubs that have spent multi or sold multiple players and got lots and lots of money in for their clubs, respectively. From Saudi before we've even got anything in. Alan St-Maximin's going to be the first one from Newcastle that's likely to go, and it will be wrapped up, going to Saudi from that perspective.
What's the price, Pete?
It's hard to say. The Sky reported it around 40 million. Some have since said it's going to be around 30 million. And there's other reports that are saying it's going to be 25 million euros. So that's even less. So, you're looking just over 20 million. So nobody really knows what the price is. And until it's signed.
You won't miss him. You won't miss him. I told you this. You won't. I know you like him, but
I'm a massive ASM fan. But I also understand that we need to progress. And this time last year, I was unloaded saying exactly this, is that he needed to show this season that 1, he could stay fit, 2, that he could be consistent, and 3, we needed, I think he got 10 goal and assist contributions the previous season. We needed to see more than that. We actually saw less. So for me, he had his opportunity this season to prove that he could stay in this Newcastle team and grow and develop. He did grow and develop in terms of the style of play, but long term, he was never going to be a viable option. So for me, him coming out, Barnes coming in, is a massive upgrade because we're getting now goals and assists, high press. We've got someone that's younger. We've got someone that's going to be hungry to play for Newcastle and Champions League football. So I'm not mad about it. We needed it for FFP related. We needed to sell players. You can't go and spend just around 300 million and not recoup any money. You have to. You look at Chelsea, you look at Arsenal, you look at other players, other big teams. They recoup money by selling players. We needed to do it. So the other thing that I'll say with regards to Saudi and what they're doing, for me, I know why they're doing it. It's absolutely clear. They want the World Cup in 2030. It's simple as that. And in order for that to happen, they want to do things better than what Qatar did.
Mm-hmm.
And Qatar didn't have a league that was viable. They didn't have interest that was viable. They didn't have the commercial side of things or the tourism side of things. You saw in the World Cup empty stadiums, big, massive stadiums that were built for 20, 30, 40,000 fans, but you barely get 20 in at a World Cup game, which doesn't seem right. They want things differently. You look at what they do with boxing, you look at what they do with WWE, they sell out, they pack it out. But then the best way to do that is to create interest. And the best way they're doing that is buying all the best top players, albeit towards the end of their career, but high-profile names, and building a league off the back of that. And what they did, they acquired those top 4 teams. They're buying all of these top players, and they're recruiting because they want a league that people are aware of, that are interested in because of the players that are playing there. And what that then does is create interest for potentially their bid for the World Cup. And that is basically what they're doing. They've had this vision of 2030 for a long, long time now. And that's what they want. So for me, I understand why they're doing it. Whether I agree with it or not is a different conversation. But I understand why they're doing it, because they want, when they assume they're going to get the World Cup, they want it to be one of the best that they've had in the Middle East or of any World Cup that we've had recently. And this is the way that they're going about doing it. And they're not going to stop. January, next summer, they will continue to buy and invest in players into the Saudi League. And I would not be surprised come August, September, that there's a deal in place of either Sky or TNT Sport or somewhere else that they've got a deal for Saudi Pro League, and it's on our TVs and we're watching on a regular basis, because this is what they're looking for.
Yeah, of course they are. 100% they're looking for that. And I totally agree with the World Cup as well. You say you're not mad about it. Let's talk to somebody who might be a little bit mad about it, Emilio. Fulham are getting targeted, my friend, properly. And Marco Silva as a release clause, apparently. Mitrovic talking about going over there. He's burning bridges, apparently, and saying, you're out of order for slapping a massive price tag on my head. It all looks a bit of a mess at the moment. You've rejected 40 million for Paulinho as well for West Ham, which, to be fair, when they've just got 105 million from us, that's a joke on the first bid, in my opinion. But you must be a little bit concerned, Emilio. What's happening, bro?
Yeah, what isn't happening really? But I think that's the price you pay for success, right? I think we're saying off air, finishing 10th, disappointed not to finish high last season. Look, all these Saudis and other clubs are targeting our best players. Clearly, Fulham have got probably a peak of how high we can finish in the league, but I think they're preying on the uncertainty within our club. This all stems from Marco Silva, and Steve Reynolds, my friend in Spain, he's on the show listening tonight, and we both said on the show back at the end of last season, Marco Silva, sign that bloody contract, create the certainty, and let's move on and rebuild. But his view is he hasn't signed the extension. His contract comes to an end next year. this is creating all the uncertainty. And then the likes of the Saudis are coming in, preying on that uncertainty. They look at a manager, you know what, had two great seasons for the club, good brand of football, exciting, young, got plenty of light years ahead of him. Let's go and target him. Spalletti, Napoli won the domestic league in Italy last season. Spalletti's told the Saudis where to go, basically. He didn't take the job. Now they look at Marco Silva as a backup. But look, a lot of it's is speculation, right? And nothing's confirmed until it's all signed and sealed. But Silva, until you sign that contract, there's going to be all this uncertainty. Both players do not want to extend within Fulham. Paulinho may be tempted to go if Silva doesn't stay. Mitrovic clearly is upsetting and supposedly a lot of fans because he's gone, supposedly, in inverted commas, claim that he doesn't want to pay for the club again because of the price that we've slapped on, to the Saudis. So look, we've stuck by Mitrovic for many, many years. He's done a great job for the club. We've rode through the bad times as well as the good. He's had some unsettled times in the Premier League in the past. Had a good first half of the season last year. Scored goals. Then he picked up a knock before the World Cup. He asked to be rested before the World Cup so he could play World Cup game, which we respected. He cost us a semi-final in the FA Cup last season. He then missed 8-9 games. So look, Mitrovic, you've nearly not played a third quarter of the season. But don't piss us around. You've got a good contract. Yeah. If you want to go, bugger off and don't burn bridges. But I'm getting frustrated. If there's truth to it, he needs to go immediately. That dressing room is going to be toxic within there if he doesn't want to play. And he's the type of person who will throw his toys out of the pram when things don't go well. We saw how he can react. So you know what, Mitrovic, if that's true, what I'm reading in the press, you're not welcome at our club. Get off, get the 50 million, and we rebuild and get somebody else and we move on. And actually, it may allow us to change it, play a different brand of football rather than playing the Mitrovic way, which I think I'd actually welcome a change. I'd welcome a change. And like I said, he had a good first half of the season, but it's all speculation until it's fact. But
of course, I've got a few questions. I'm sure Pete probably has as well. To be fair for you, because there's a lot going on today with Fulham. But what I'm hearing from you, Emilio, is, do you know what? Fulham, I love. Always will love Fulham. I love the fact that we're playing well. We played a good football this year, but actually the club's more important than someone who's throwing their toys out the pram. Now I'm hearing that, but is there still the same? Not concern or frustration. How do we ever get to that next level if this sort of stuff keeps happening to teams like Fulham, not just to Fulham, but teams like Fulham? Because there will be Wolves, another one, Neves. He's gone over for like 47 million. There's a couple more that's going to happen to. I've got no doubt. West Ham, we've just nicked their sort of captain and their best player.
Yeah.
Size like yourself, it becomes frustrating. I think for me, what's even more of a kick in the teeth for Fulham is the fact that they literally want to, Saudi Arabia have come in and want to clear you out. Now, if it was Manchester United or Chelsea, let's say, that want a striker, they want a defensive midfielder, which two positions they need, they go in for Paulinho and for Mitrovic, and they give you, say, 50 million for both. I don't know, like sort of each. You might go, do you know what? They're going to Chelsea. They want to stay in London. They want to better their career. We've got 100 million to play with. Let's go have some fun with it and see what we can do. I think, is it, am I right in saying
I would tolerate that more weirdly.
There you go.
I would say I'd accept that more. But if someone's going to want to go and grab, go and chase the man, which, look, we're all entitled to that. If someone had offered me 4 times my salary, you wouldn't just dismiss it. You probably would have a think about it, right? I think I'd be very surprised if anyone listening to the show tonight wouldn't think about a better proposition on the table. Now, whether it's the right proposition, the right opportunity, everyone makes their own decisions. But if the speculation is correct that he is throwing his toys out the pram and wants to go, then get the most you can get out for him. If other players are going for 50 to 70 million, then based on his club record, the amount of goals he scored for the club, his international record, he's worth 50 million. Get the money and move on. There's other players that we can get locally in the UK that can come in and do a decent job for us. But for me, it all starts at the top. Marco Silva, you haven't signed that contract. Players are reluctant to potentially extend into new contracts. He doesn't sign. Paulinho, West Ham come in with another bid for Paulinho. How far will our manager or our owners be tempted to say, you know what, get to 50, 60 million for Paulinho? We can't stop him. If West Ham come up with that sort of money, they're going to want to pay. He'll have to go.
Was he 60 million and that'll be enough, do you think?
60 in this current market, it's gone nuts.
Yeah,
right?
and it's mad, isn't it? Maybe he's 80 or 90.
You look at the stats last season. Rice versus Paulinho. Paulinho beats Rice in every statistic. Yes, he's maybe a few years older than Rice, but statistically, Paulinho had a better record across the board. Yes, if Rice is going for 105, Paulinho, no disrespect, 50, 60 million minimum. is what I'd be asking for. Fulham are price like about 75 million on the
Fair
table
enough.
if you want him. Pay up.
Is he 26?
28, 28, isn't he?
He's
He's going to be
28.
28. I think he's going to be 28 this year. I think. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So
Ooh.
look, he's had one great season, but
I didn't
the
realise
system
that.
suited him. You know, he had a good manager, well coached. He embedded into our team very, very well. And look, the likes of West Ham and other teams are willing to spend that sort of money to go and attempt to play out of one good season. So my view is Marco Silva sign that contract, create the stability, push away all this uncertainty from the side. Until you don't sign, this uncertainty is going to continue and it's going to create unrest within our club. We're going to struggle then buying new players because we don't know if the manager's going to stay or not. So it's an odd situation, right? But it's small clubs like Fulham. You know, what can we do? We've got no choice. You know, sell up or struggle, and that's why I worry about second season syndrome before all this uncertainty, let alone.
Yeah, like it already were, and now this could make it even harder. Like, yeah, I get that. And Palhinha turned 28 this month. So yeah, he's 28 years old. Yeah, I didn't until I think it was one of the guys on the stream a couple of days ago said, "Yeah, well, Palhinha is 28 now," and I was like, "Is he?" I had no idea. So yeah, he is. Pete, a player you know pretty well, Mitrovic. If I'm honest, I was at Newcastle for a bit. What do you make of all this Fulham, bro?
Look, it's very clear he's chasing the money. I think he needs to show a little bit more respect to Fulham. Fulham saved his career.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. At Newcastle, you know what? I always go back to because he's a Newcastle fan. He always has been. He as a young boy, he always talked about watching Alan Shearer. He walked around as a kid with a Newcastle shirt. So when we were linked with him, it was like he has to come to Newcastle because he's a Newcastle fan. He loves the club. But I always go back to his first game. It was Southampton at home when he come on as a sub, and in his first involvement was to get a yellow card. He pummeled someone to the ground in the corner near the corner flag, and it got the fans up. But he got a yellow card off the back of it. That was the worst thing he ever did because he had a target on his back from day one. And he never really recovered from that at Newcastle. He had moments. He scored in the derby against Sunderland. He had little moments here and there. He just wasn't a Rafa Benitez player. So he was always a bit part. And he kind of got casted out. Fulham saved him. He went on loan to Fulham. He had a great time. He ended up signing for you for 30-odd million. I think it was in add-ons, 30-odd million. And you guys made him the player that he is now, where people absolutely rate him as a player. He needs to remember that because his career could have gone very, very differently off the back of that. But this is what the Saudi money does to certain players. It gets them desperate to the point where he's gone to Tony Khan and gone, I need to leave. I have to leave. Please allow me to leave. And I get that because of the type of money that's available. I get it to a point of view, but I think he also needs to respect Fulham because Fulham have allowed him to grow and to be the player that he is. He's 28 years old. And I don't genuinely believe if he'd have gone to another club that he would have been the player that we're talking about right now. I genuinely believe that. So there's a level of respect there. I have to be honest, I'm not surprised by your manager because he's proven it before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm really not surprised by it. Like, I just think that whether it was Everton, whether it was Watford before,
he's not loyal. He's not loyal.
He isn't. He isn't, and he's proven that. So that's the one thing that doesn't shock me. But what Mitrovic has done does shock me because the way he talks in interviews, whether it was at Newcastle or Fulham, he always talks with that level of loyalty. Even when he wasn't playing at Newcastle, he always talked with a level of loyalty for the club, and even the manager, he talked well about him, even though he wasn't getting minutes. When he went to Fulham, he still talks really positive about the club. So this bit, is this agent driven? Is there someone in his ear kind of encouraging this? Because this doesn't sound like a Mitrovic.
No. That's why I don't believe all this. Some of this. I think there's obviously there's some truth in that they're interested in him, but I think the media are blowing it out of all proportions. And I think, so like you said, it's very uncharacteristic. There was rumours after he got sent off last year and the way he got punished from that incident at Old Trafford that he wanted out of the Premier League. I think there was some truth around that. He just felt that maybe he was being targeted by the Premier League and made a scapegoat for. We've seen worse. We saw Bruno Fernandes a couple of weeks earlier against Liverpool, against Man City, did something similar, got away with nothing. Mitrovic does something, 8-game ban. So he felt it was a little bit targeted, and there were rumours that he wanted out of the Premier League. But clearly now, there is some truth. But like you're right, Pete. He needs to show a bit of respect to us, and I'd like him to be honest. Come open, come and speak in public. Tell the fans why you want to leave the club if there is truth to it, and then the fans will respect you more, and then we can plan around that rather than throwing us in the deep end, buggering off, and then we haven't got a backup to replace him with the season 2-3 weeks away. That's the thing.
And that
He'd get more credibility and respect, but his legend status is going down very, very quickly at the moment, just because if there is truth to this, he's not handling it, particularly whether it's him, his agent, or a combination of both. But you're right, that word loyalty is non-existent, and no player in my club for sure is ever going to be bigger than a club. So if you think Mitrovic, you're going to become a legend, you've lost that respect immediately from all the fans if you decide to do what you're doing. And the club will always be bigger, Alexander Mitrovic, than you will ever be.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Emilio, like if he does eventually leave, which I'll be honest with what you're hearing and the stance that you're saying, he's gone to the US, but you're saying he's never going to play for the club again. If he does eventually leave, how big of a hole does that create for Fulham with only a few weeks left before the start of the season?
Yeah, it's going to be a panic buys as usual. You'd like to have thought the owners would have been doing some searching and tapping of other players, always backups, because after you've had a good season, there's always going to be speculation that some of your key players were going to go. I think keeping Paulinho is more important than Mitrovic, as far as I'm concerned. I think he's a spine of that team, and I think Mitrovic can be replaced. I think will be replaced with maybe a slightly different type of player. There are some good players out there. Ollie Watkins has been touted, so I think he could really do a good job for us. Whether Billy's not on tonight, I don't know if he's listening, but he's been linked.
Are they going to sell Watkins?
I was going to say,
I don't know. There's a link there out there at the moment. There's a couple of links I've seen there, but look, the season's only around the corner. We never traditionally make our transfer signings early. We always leave it till 2-3 weeks after the season started. But the owners have been working hard. I trust the owners here. I think I can't blame them if a player wants to leave the club. I can't blame them if Marcus Silva doesn't want to sign an extension. I think the owners are doing everything they can. They've pumped millions into the club. There were rumours that they were trying to sell the club, but we're hearing through credible sources that's not true. The owners are here to stay. So look, they get a hard time from our fans, but I've always said, mind what you wish for. As a Fulham fan, we've got owners who have spent millions at the club, haven't always invested properly, but we thought now we've got Silva, we've got a good squad, we can push on for next season, but clearly other factors are derailing us from that. So I'm worried. 2-3 weeks at the start of the season.
You need to sort it now. You need to sort it now, really. You don't want this dragging on. If he's going, manager, Paulinho and Mitrovic, the three of them want out, you will get some money from Emilio. You ain't going to get pennies, right? So do it quick, and then you can go and look at what you want.
Move on and rebuild,
which is a nice segue into my next question. If things go right for Fulham, it means that it's not going to be a shambles. But if these three are to go, where do you want Fulham to kind of lean towards in terms of management first, and then a replacement for two of your best players? Which, to be fair, they are your two best players in my opinion. Paulinho and Mitrovic are your two best players. It would be like Pete losing Isak and Bruno Mahrez, let's say, right?
Yeah.
It's real tough it's a real kick in the teeth, man. So where do Fulham go from here, man, in terms of the manager first and then replacing those two?
I think there's been a bit of speculation. I think it was Javier Pereira, has been linked to the club. Look, it's again all speculation. Potter's been linked to the club, but look, I'm not going to buy any of this on rumours. I still believe Silva will extend for Fulham, and I know money doesn't always talk. He needs to prove himself at the highest league, and he's come on record many times that he wants to have another successful season at Fulham and help Fulham push on to a European place. Hopefully he'll stick to that vision. And that's why I don't always believe everything we're reading. 40 million on the table. That's what Sky Sports announced a few hours ago. Look, if he's going to go, he's going to go. But you would have thought he would have gone by now. Why is he hanging around? He's gone on the US tour. I'd like to think there'll be some loyalty there, even though, Pete, you're right. He's done this traditionally with other clubs. But I feel something I just feel there's a lot more speculation than truth in a lot of this. They're just trying to derail. Maybe they're trying to get back at Tony Khan with some of his comments the other day on a video that he did with another US broadcaster a couple of days ago. So, look, Fulham's priority was always going to be survival. This season just gone. It's still going to be survival next season. Nothing's changed. But it's going to make it harder if we've got all this hanging over our head. So let's get the uncertainty knocked on the head very, very quickly. If Mitrovic wants to go, I would suggest that will only be a matter of time. A couple of days' time, we'll get the transfer fee. He'll go. But Marcus Silva, he's the one we need to retain. If he doesn't sign, then there'll be more players going. But then Williams signed. I know Williams signed another season's extension to the Fulham, primarily because obviously his view is that Marcus Silva is still going to be managing the club. So I still believe these players that have extended and willing to come to the club are there because they want to play the Silva brand of football. So that's why I don't 100% believe a lot of the rumours here. I think it's just Saudi gossip, media gossip, and I'm hoping I'm proved right that they decide to stay at the club and we can push on for next year. But let's have this conversation next week again, Dan. See whether
absolutely we should. Absolutely we should, man. Of course. Just do us a favor, people. Make sure you like this video. There's 300 of you watching nearly. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you come over to these two on the Cottage Talk and Loaded Mag NUFC and do exactly the same thing and follow Pete and Emilio on all socials. Want to try and get us all up to 11k people, so that would be amazing if you could get us there. That's our next target. If you've got any questions for myself, Emilio, or Pete, whack them in the chat. Make sure you put a capital Q before, just so I can understand it's a question. Pete, you found like you're gonna come in with
Troy Mitchell just put, Peter would love to hear the backstory of how you became a Newcastle. People ask me this all the time. Being based in the Midlands, they always ask me why I'm a Newcastle fan. It's purely by chance, I have to be honest, and I'm glad it was by chance. My dad, being a Leicester fan, turned on the TV because he wanted to watch the game. This is early 90s. And it was the game where Newcastle won to get promoted to the Premier League, where we hammered Leicester 7-1. Andy Cole scored a hat-trick that day. And I was kind of just getting into football as such. My brother is a bigger fan. He's a little bit older than me. And that day I just watched Andy Cole destroy Leicester City. And I was just like, first of all, who are this team in black and white? Like, when do you ever get a team wearing black and white? So it just stood out for me in that sense. And then I'm watching Andy Cole. Obviously, I'm a black man myself. I can resonate with another black man that's scoring goals for this team. And I'm going, who is this guy, Andy Cole? And I'll be honest, that was it. That was it for me. I followed Newcastle ever since. I was really lucky because even at 8, 9, 10 years old, my older brother, he took me to games, mostly away games, because we couldn't travel up to games at a young age, and we'd go around the country supporting Newcastle. I always remember, like, I was there Janola's first game when he scored against Sheffield Wednesday. I was there at Loftus Road in the home end, by the way. When Les Ferdinand went back to QPR to score against them. And I remember my brother and his best mate, who was also a Newcastle fan, they were strike partners together for their local team in Leicester. And the three of us in the whole of that section of the stand just jumped up. We're just going when Les Ferdinand, he broke through, chest it down, smashed it into the middle of the goal and ran off with his arm aloft. I'll never, ever forget that. And that was back in the day where you could be in the home end and you could celebrate and it wasn't a problem.
In a shithole. It's a shit. Loftus Road's a shithole, mate.
Well, I've always got a special thing with Loftus Road because I've been there a few times with Newcastle. In the home end, interestingly, I've never been in the away end at Loftus Road. They were the early days. I've not been back since. But always in the home end and always been respectful. People around us, not happy that we're scoring against them, but always kind of like, very much talking to us and really respectful to us because we're Newcastle fans. I've always had like a positive things to say about Loftus Road, so I'm not going to hammer them too much. But mad story, but
Oh, yeah, I knew it would be a wild one, like Troy said in the chat, man. So fair play. Any more questions for the three of us? Whack them in the chat. I can see a super chat already that I will read out. Of course, super chats will go straight to the top of the pile. So make sure you get your questions in. Before we do that and come to those questions as they start flying in, Pete, Aston Villa are making moves, bro. Aston Villa are starting to make some very good signings. They've obviously got Pau Torres, they've signed Yuri Tielemans, and now it looks like they've got the guy that you and I were linked with for Arsenal and Newcastle, Moussa Diaby, which we're being told is turned down Saudi Arabia for around £50 million. I think the million euros. That's a hell of a signing for me. I like this player. I think he's a very, very good player. And I'm looking at what Villa are got right now. Billy was going to jump on, but he's busy tonight. I was chatting to him earlier and I said to him, I think you're a goalkeeper in terms of a backup, a right back in terms of a backup, and maybe a striker away from having a pretty decent squad as far as Villa are concerned to go and compete next season and really give the Conference League a go, perhaps even go and push for a domestic cup if they feel like they have to have the squad depth. And actually in the league, you don't have to worry about it until, say, maybe February, until you look at where you are in the other competitions to have a real good go at trying to get as close as they can to Europe as well. Unai Emery knows what he's doing, and it's looking like he's being backed, Pete. I can't lie. What do you make of this?
Aston Villa have had a very, very good window. A very, very good window. People are quite right in saying that Aston Villa are a team to look out for. I completely agree with it. For me, what made me sit up and take notice is the Pau Torres signing. I think he's a fantastic centre-back. I really do. We don't necessarily need a left-sided centre-back in that because we've got Sven Botman. But if we didn't have Sven Botman, he would be a guy that I'd be looking at and saying, we need to bring him in. More experience, but it is a terrific signing. And then to go and get, you know how I feel about Moussa Diaby. You feel the same.
Same.
We were linked with him last summer. The only thing for me, a lot of journalists have been linking Newcastle and Moussa Diaby. We haven't been linked with him this summer at all. Like we've been linked as an additional name, as Newcastle have been all summer with a lot of players. It's always like an Arsenal and Newcastle or a Villa and Newcastle.
But to be fair, even Arsenal, we were weekly linked as well, really. I mean,
exactly. And I always talk to me and the Loaded Boys always talk about these sort of deals. And the one thing I've always said is that we haven't been linked to them. But I was always hoping that he was always going to go somewhere else in Europe if he was going to leave or stay at Leverkusen. The fact that Villa came in, I was like, oh my God, please no. But they've got the deal done. It's a great deal. He's a superb player. He is going to be one that the Premier League are going to be talking about this season. There's no doubt about it. And he makes Aston Villa significantly stronger. Honestly, yeah, they've done some great business. It's whether Unai Emery, and I believe he will. Unai Emery, it's whether he can put that squad together and make them gel and make them mould. But I believe he will in the season to come. But look, it's everyone's strengthening, everyone's improving. We're doing the same. Arsenal doing the same. You know, no doubt with regards to your situation, Emilio, you guys will do the same. There's a long time between now and the 31st of August to improve your squad. But Villa are making serious moves, and they're showing that they're not messing around. They're not playing any games. And a lot of Newcastle fans, I get messages, DMs all the time from Newcastle fans saying, you know, how are Villa doing this? Like, how are they continuing to sign these players? You know, and FFP not be a conversation when it is with us. And I'm saying, well, you've got to remember, you've got to factor in that they sold Jack Grealish not long ago for 100 million. Since then, they've also sold off other players to recoup some money. So they've got money to play around with. They're in a very, very good position.
Owners backing them as well, Pete.
And they've got an owner that can back them and can put money in there. You know, Dart by Design, another one that supports Loaded, welcome in the chat. He said Tielemans was on a free. You're absolutely right. He was on a free. So they have been very, very smart. Kamara last season was on a free as well. They've been very smart with their deals. a lot of people talk about how Newcastle and other teams have been smart with their deals. Villa are doing the same as well, and even more so now. So, like, look, if I was Billy, I'd be excited about this season.
Oh,
Sure,
100%.
because,
100%.
like, they can really attack the season, and not have any worries about kind of failure or expectations. A little bit like how we were the beginning of last season. They can really attack the season with no real expectations there. They've got Europe, but they've got the best manager that can orchestrate that because he's done it and been able to win European trophies and navigate a season on top of that as well. So they are in a really, really good position. And fair play to them. Villa and Newcastle have had their differences. There's no rivalry there. They've had their differences over the years, but for me, it's great to see Villa and Newcastle being talked as teams that can potentially rock that traditional
big clubs, man.
six.
We had a debate last night talking about big clubs, two big clubs, in my opinion. And I don't want to get into that debate again. That was exhausted at times last night. But that's what you do. That's my fault for putting D and Lawless on the same podcast. But listen, it's good to see. And I will say that I have always respected both those clubs because they've always been clubs, in my opinion, that have had the fan base there. And they've always been the clubs that have always been up there flirting with European football for a lot of my lifetime anyway. At times it's been very, very down as well for both Villa and Newcastle in the Championship, of course, but you've always been there or thereabouts. Emilio, lastly, before we come to questions, let me ask you this. I don't want to give you false hope or sell you a dream, but let's just say that Silva, Mitrovic and Paulinho stay at Fulham and you add some quality. You'll be looking to try and show progress on the previous season, which of course was a top half finish. I think that's going to be extremely hard for a number of teams. Now, I'm looking at Villa, Brighton, Spurs, Chelsea, and then obviously the guys like myself, Pete, Liverpool, United. The list goes on. This is going to be incredibly tough, Emilio, this season. But Villa are right up there, in my opinion.
Yeah,
what do you think?
They're pushing on. They're pushing on. And it's clubs like Brighton. I worry. Again, they've traditionally, selling their bargain buys for multi-million-pound deals, and still find a way of finding another player that they get for Calzada. How much is he going to go for? 70, 80 million pounds? Ridiculous. So that philosophy and approach can only go so far. I think Brighton will eventually come unstuck, in my opinion. Like you're right. These other clubs are pushing on. They're investing. They're making some really good signings, and they're really strengthening their squads. And to be honest, Fulham can still compete in some of those games. Last season, look, disappointed to finish 10th, and I've seen a lot of comments in people watching the show tonight, dissing the club. As far as I'm concerned, we deserve a bit more respect, right, from the neutrals. I don't think we get enough of that. Think small little Fulham. Why would you come to Fulham? Why would he stay at Fulham? Come on, that's excuse me, I'm going to use the B word here, which I don't often use. It's bullshit, guys. Give us a bit of credit. We deserve to finish 10th, if not higher. But to get all this disrespect from other fans who think, you clearly you've won more trophies, Arsenal, Tottenham, Newcastle, all these other clubs. Of course, you've won more trophies than Fulham, but it's not all about trophies. It's all about it's now. Can we push on for next season? I'm not in denial, like someone mentioned a few moments ago. I'm being realistic, and I'm hopeful that we can keep some Mitrovic, Silva, and Paulinho. But next season will be hard. I said that at the end of last season before all this speculation came out. And second season will be harder. Chelsea will get better. Other clubs will push on. So there's going to be, I think there's going to be like a top 10 and a very distant bottom 10. I think that top 6, 8 to 10 are going to keep pushing away. And then it's all about picking up points around the bottom half of the table and do what we did last season. Beat the teams around you, we'll be okay. But clearly we're going to need to strengthen the squad, not lose key players and the manager as well. So
of course.
But nothing's changed. Staying up is a priority. And if anything more than that is a bonus. But let's get all this speculation knocked on the head very quickly and build foundations for the next season, which is only a few weeks away. But I'm, thank you very much, Danny. Fulham are the biggest team in West London. We've finished, we've got to read.
Facts. The Premier League don't lie. Table don't lie. That's what they say.
And we're all realistic, our fans. We know that we don't expect to win the Champions League or win the Premier League. We just want to enjoy our football, enjoy going to see the home games and the away games, and just love the club that we that's part of our blood, basically. So, I'm very grounded as a supporter for 40 odd years, and whatever we can do to stay in this Premier League is a bonus because there's some very good teams out there with good managers, a lot of investment, and we've got to just keep pushing fighting and believing that we can stay in the Premier League. So let's see. Next few weeks are going to be make or break our season potentially.
Listen, let's do your questions. This one comes in with a super chat from Hit44. It says, Dan, who's a better fullback combo, Zinchenko and Benny Blanco, or Kieran Tierney and Jurriën Timber? Well, I tell you what, we're going to find out this season. But right now, it's definitely Ben White and Zinchenko, because they're the ones that haven't really, in my opinion, done enough wrong to be dropped out the side. Having said that, there are definitely games where Kieran Tierney could have been used last season, because defensively Zinchenko at times isn't terribly strong. And I tell you what, after seeing Timber come on and what Timber is about, he's a serious talent, man. We're not buying this player just to muck around and just in case Ben White gets an injury. Our defense is absolutely sorted right now. With Tomiyasu as well, that people have forgotten about. We've got Gabriel and Kivior being used a lot by Mikel Arteta. Kieran Tierney and Zinchenko on that left-hand side. Saliba, Ben White, Timber, Tomiyasu. Yeah, we are sorted defensively. So at the moment, I think the back four stays the same. Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko. For me, got some unbelievable backup, and that's what we need in every single position going forward. This one is for Pete Lee Farrell. Big up yourself. Says, for Pete, do you think that Newcastle will still try to buy Kieran Tierney? As an Arsenal fan, I pray we do not lose him, and I'm with Lee. I don't want to lose him either. Pete?
Honestly, I don't think we will. There's rumours tonight, strong rumours that we're close to agreeing a fee with Tino Livramento from Southampton for around 25-30 million.
Good player.
Very, very good player. He will be the future right back of England. There's no doubt about it. 20 years old. It's just the question marks about him recovering from his ACL, which he has done and he's played. The reason why I say about the Kieran Tierney deal not necessarily happening is because what we then have is a situation where Kieran Trippier and Livramento can both play left back and right back. So there's a chance that Livramento will play right back in certain games and Trippier will play left back, or vice versa. You've still got Dan Burn as an option. I don't think we'll get rid of Target in this window. So you've got then 3 potential left backs there, with Jamal Lewis being moved on. And then you've got...
Oh, where's he gone? Where's Lewis gone?
Jamal Lewis he's not gone anywhere. He's in America at the moment, but he's got strong links with Watford.
I thought he was going to be a talent. I can't lie. But
you know what? Injuries have ruined him. We were talking about it on the show tonight and last night, in fact, in that when Eddie Howe first came in, he was the first choice left back, and he was one of Eddie Howe's major players, and he was actually playing really well up until the game at Anfield. We went 1-0 up when Shelby scored, and then he pulled his hamstring running down the wing. He was causing all sorts of havoc down that side against Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then he got an injury and he was out for like two months. And by that point, then we got Target, and that was it. Like, he never got back in. He had to have surgery on his calves and all the rest of it. He's had so many little niggly injuries he's never quite recovered from. He looks fit now, and he's played in more of an attacking role on pre-season, but he just needs to go and play. So I think he's going to get a loan move to Watford, play there for a season, and then we'll probably captain at some point. But we'll have Target, Burn, and maybe Trippier, Livramento as left back options, but certainly Trippier and Livramento as right back options. I think that's where we're going to go, and that's where I think we're going to.
That makes sense. That makes sense, man. Big shout here from Bricks on the Coast as well. I'll take him at Leeds back with Farker. At Norwich, Max Aarons and Jamal Lewis actually look pretty decent. I know Norwich weren't great that season and obviously got relegated, but in terms of young up-and-coming fullbacks, I looked at both of them and thought, yeah, fair play. And obviously then Newcastle got him. Emilio, you can take this one from the mighty Win, who says, do you think that financial fair play could be on the way out if Saudi start buying proper current stars like Haaland? Thoughts?
Look, it's still a rule. I'm not entirely sure how it's actually calculated. But there's a Fulham fan of ours who comes on our shows. He's a Mr. FFP. So it's probably, but I don't know. At the end of the day, who's going to dominate the global leagues? I think that's going to be who are the superpowers. Who's got enough clout to actually override some of these rules? I think it's here to stay for the time being. You know, you want it out. I think for clubs like Fulham, we want this to remain, to give us a chance to, like I say, to push on, Dan. How can we keep pushing on if the likes of these clubs and owners come and spend an unlimited, amount of cash? There needs to be some regulation here, to be as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, it's even like you, Peter. Going back to who do you want to be playing week in, week out? Do you want to keep playing Liverpool, Man United, Barcelona in the Super League, or do you want to play your local football teams? Play as a fan, because a lot of it's, if FFP gets ruled out, then there's no regulation. Buy what you want, spend what you want, no control. What do you want as a fan?
Before you answer that, Pete, I'll tell you where I stand quickly, because I think it will be seen to you. I'm all for FFP if it's going to work. If it doesn't work, I'd rather just bin it and scrap it. Because if you're going to allow Man City and Chelsea and potentially Newcastle, who haven't done it yet, to go do this thing and have no punishment whatsoever, a transfer embargo or a fine or whatever it be, just get rid of it and let them spend the way they want. It's pathetic, in my opinion. If you're going to actually say, do you know what, these are the rules, and if you break them, you're going down to League Two, then I'm all for it. But let's be real. There needs to be a deterrent to just go mad, and there ain't one, Pete.
Nah, it's a really interesting point that Mighty Win again. He watches a lot Unloaded, and he's raised a great point. And the reason why it's a great point, because I've had this in the back of my mind for a while with regards to this. With the Saudi Pro League, they're not attached to the UEFA regulations. So, like, even with the Newcastle potentially loaning players from Saudi and being the same owner, it doesn't work because it's not part of the UEFA regulations. So therefore, it can happen. And for me, this is how I would want it to go. I would, and this is from a selfish point of view, so I have to make that clear, is that I would want Saudi to keep buying these players, to keep doing this, to keep buying these players out from all these top clubs, to the point where these top clubs go to UEFA and go, we're not happy with this, something needs to be done. We need to either expand FFP or we need to get rid of it. Because if FFP gets chucked out, we're a club that benefits from it, because that's the one thing that's holding us back right now. And we can't sign the players that we want to sign because we've got the money to do it, because FFP is restricting us. And we know that we're being scrutinized and watched very, very closely as a club with regards to FFP. If that gets chucked out, we can go and spend and do what we want. And ultimately, what that will allow the Premier League to do is to create competition. It will allow us to be competitive against Man City. It will also allow Aston Villa to go and do the same, who have got very well-backed owners, as Potts quite rightly said earlier. It would allow other teams like Man United and various others that have been hampered by FFP to do that. And what that then does is creates a competitive opposition for Man City. Because I genuinely see Man City being at the top for God knows how many years. But what it would do is create competition at the top, where those teams can be competitive, and that you're not always going to see Man City at the top winning it every year, and there'll be a lot of other teams being very, very competitive at the top and pushing the likes of Man City to do that. And from a selfish point of view, I want that, because that allows us to fight at the top table. It allows us to be in that competition for winning trophies, something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime under Mike Ashley. But I genuinely believe, like Potts, that actually FFP doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. No, but let's be consistent. Let's be consistent,
Yeah, it's not consistent, and it actually hampers a lot of teams rather than helps the situation. It actually hampers it in a lot of ways. And I do think that the longer that the Saudi Pro League continue to buy these players and continue to do this, I think at some point, in order for these top teams to be competitive, UEFA are going to have to turn around and go, you know what? We need you guys to be competitive. Let's either expand FFP so you can spend more to keep these players in Europe, or let's get rid of it and let's just go and go at it. I think at some point that decision is going to be made. I'm not saying it's going to happen this summer. I'm not even going to say it's going to happen next summer. But at some point, that conversation will be had, because Saudi have proven that they've got the money to just go and do and spend and spend and spend. This isn't China. This is the US that we've seen in previous years. These guys have got the money that when they want something to happen, they will go and invest in money continuously over a period of time to get what they want. And they will continue to invest and buy these players and give them the contracts that top European teams are not able to do. So I think
Facts, man.
it's a genuine conversation that will happen at some point, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to bang these ones out very quickly, guys. Emilio, if Mitrovic leaves, who would be an ideal replacement? And he's given you a budget of £35 million, which I imagine you'll potentially get more than that, but obviously he's looking at more than one player. So what are you going for there, bro?
Yeah, good question. There's a few players. There's used to be a former player of ours who's done pretty well in some of the European leagues. Moussa Dembele, he's available in the summer. He's available on a free transfer, so he's somebody I'd like to see at the club. I've wanted to see him for a number of years, and we let him go too young many years ago. Do you remember him, Moussa Dembele? Played at Lyon.
I do remember him.
He can come in, I think, quick, strong. I think he could do well for us.
Good player.
We've been linked to Beto of Udinese, a Portuguese international. He's mid-20s, so I think Tottenham are also looking at him as well. They're about 30-35 million, so he's another potentially a bit of an unknown quantity in the Premier League, but I think he could be that's the sort of player that we need to be targeting. I know the Ollie Watkins. Why would Watkins leave Villa? I don't necessarily think if Villa are pushing up in the way they are, is he going to be a regular starter? Probably not. So that's why there's been some link to Fulham, but clearly it's all media speculation. Hudson-Odoi could come in and maybe add as a backup striker. He's been linked heavily with us at the moment, and Chelsea rejected one bid for him last week, so he's probably with a bit more money we can probably tempt him to come over. He would need to play with someone else around him, and Dembele I think would be actually a very good combination. So a lot of options, but I'm also excited to see what will it mean if Mitrovic does leave. I think it will mean a slight change in formation, style of football. So
I think so.
I'm a little bit excited about that as well. So yes, if he wants to go, he knows where the door is, but I think it also opens the path for maybe a different brand of football up front, and we can extend the exciting brand of football that we've seen in the last couple of seasons. But let's see. But there's some of the options that are on the table, and I think there's a bit of flexibility if we can get big money for Mitrovic.
Fair play, man. Mr. Waffle, big up yourself. Says Dan, do you think there's any truth in the Kimmich rumours? Nah, really, really lightly linked. But apparently available. This would be an unbelievable signing, by the way, if Arsenal were to go in for him. Wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool all over this, if I'm honest. This is a sort of player I can see going there.
Can they afford him?
I don't know how much it's going to be, Pete. It's going to be crazy money. I imagine. I think he's a top player. I mean, he can play right back, defensive, mid, centre mid. He's a really, really vital, pivotal signing. Man City, I imagine, would probably look at this being Pep Guardiola, the manager that he is, perfect for what he looks to play with. Maybe they've got enough in there now, but you can't really turn down a player of this quality. If he does leave, then we should be all over this. We should be all over this, in my opinion. There's rumours that our midfield is not done. Partey, they're not sure if he's going or staying. I don't have a clue what's going on there. I'd like to keep him. If he's going to be leaving, we are going to be looking at replacing him, and this guy would be perfection. In terms of versatility, Mikel Arteta loves a player like that, so I would love to see us go in for him. Can I see it happening? Probably not. I don't know how much he's going to be, but it'll be a hell of a lot of money. But I can see 5 or 6 player teams being interested in this, and not just Premier League teams, by the way, because he's a top talent. Let's bring this one up for Pete, which is from Jamie. Pete, who did Newcastle get in the door next, do you think? Livramento, do you think? Or
Well, Harvey Barnes isn't quite through the door yet.
Barnes, of course.
Very, very close. I'll be honest. He has kind of cut the fan base down the middle, I think purely because of the ASM.
Bring this one in as well, because this was from Stu about Harvey Barnes, so it's good timing.
It's a great question. For me, I'm really excited about Harvey Barnes. I'm gutted to lose ASM. I would have liked them to both be our left wing options.
He's better than ASM, Pete. Come on, don't even start. He's better than ASM.
No, I would have liked them to be both as an option in terms of squad depth, but there's no doubt that in productivity, Harvey Barnes completely outweighs ASM. There's no doubt.
Just quickly, Pete, 51 million for Kimmich. Yes, please. I'll take it tomorrow. Pay it.
That's
Pay
great.
it. That's an absolute bargain if that's true. But go on, please continue, Harvey Barnes.
No, it's Harvey Barnes for me. I'm excited about. 25 years old. You know, 13 goals last season in a team that was relegated. I think there's big things planned for him. I think there's a genuine chance that he could come in and light up St James's Park next season with his ability in attacking areas. There's a high press. He's pacey. He can finish. He has everything in his locker that Eddie Howe wants in a player. I think he's a really, really exciting player. There are pictures of him already being in St James's Park. He's had his medical already, so that deal's getting done, and there's a chance that he could be sitting there watching the game in America when we play on Sunday, our first of the summer series. So, and he could be involved on, I believe Tuesday when we have the next game, or Tuesday or Wednesday.
Do you need another winger after that though, Pete? Because you've got Barnes, Gordon, you've got Miguel Almiron, Isak plays wide as well. What are you saying?
I don't think Isak's going to play wide next season. Okay. Isak is our number one striker. I think Isak will start the season as the main striker. In terms of left, we've got Joe Linton that plays on the left. He scored 8 goals on the left-hand side last season. We've got Gordon and we've got Barnes. On the right-hand side, we've got Miggy. Gordon can also play on the right, but we've got Murphy as well. Some people will say we need to upgrade on the right-hand side, but I just don't see us signing 2 wingers. I see us signing more of a number 10 if we're going to sign anyone else. But for me, Livramento after Barnes is the next deal to be done, because they've been the 2 that have been live and active for the last couple of weeks. So I think we get Livramento done once ASM sold.
That's 2 good signings, man. And with Sonali as well. That's
the one thing I've maintained, and I've said it to the Loaded Boys, and I've said it to a few others, is that I wouldn't be surprised if there's an Alexander Isak signing later on in the window. So we signed Isak a couple of games in. We'd already started the season. 2 or 3 games in, I think it was, just before the Liverpool game, the 3rd or 4th game, we signed Isak because Wilson got injured, and we just put the money down and we're going to get him. I wouldn't be surprised if that sort of deal for a player, I don't know, position, whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens later on in the window.
Interesting, man. Emilio, let's bring this one to you before we have our last question of the night. This is from Noonan. It says, is Emery a good enough manager to take Villa to get top 4? And is that what Villa should be aiming for? Wow, that's an ask. But what are you saying, Emilio?
Look, I always get remembering when we beat Villa 3-0 at the Cottage last year, and then Billy was in despair at the time, and that was Gerard's last game, and the turnaround has been incredible, right? Same squad, pretty much the same squad of players. Look how far he pushed Villa from bottom 2 right up into European place. I don't think he got enough credit at Arsenal. I don't know what your thoughts are, Dan. I think obviously being at Arsenal, but he's proven manager. He's won trophies in Europe. He's doing a great job at Villa. Villa fans should be over the moon, and they're getting some very shrewd signings this summer. He's going to be knocking on that door, right? And he's probably going to put himself in the shop window as well. No disrespect to Villa fans, but clearly goes back with the territory. If you're successful, your manager and your players are going to be on the shop window. Other clubs, whether it's in UK or in other countries, are going to come knocking on the door for him. So yeah, Villa, good to be successful as a club like Fulham were last year, but the consequence of that is other teams, other leagues are going to come in and grab your best players and your manager. So yeah, just enjoy the moment, because you don't know how long it's going to last. But yeah, he can push Villa up to that top 4, top 5 very comfortably next season. They're the team to watch, like Pete said, next year.
I'm looking forward to watching them, man. I can't even lie. I'm looking forward to watching them. I've liked what they've done. You asked me about Emery. Great manager, wrong time at the club, picking up where we left off. Arsene Wenger had left and he came in. We had a completely different regime. The Cronkies weren't total ownership. We were a bit of a mess with Raul Sanlehi and Hus Fahmy, and we were in bed with Kia Jarapchkin at the time, trying to get Willian over the line and people like that. It was a bit of a toxic place with our fan base as well. Emery wasn't backed in the way Mikel Arteta was. He asked for Zaha, we gave him Pepe. He asked for Rupa Meccano, we gave him David Luiz. He asked for Thomas Partey, we gave him Dani Ceballos. The list goes on. It was not Emery's side, really. And he was trying to do what he could with it. There was a lot of toxicity in the dressing room at the time. Mustafi's, Ozils, Aubameyangs, all of
Mm.
these guys that have been washed out and told, see you later. And let's not forget, Unai Emery, with all those problems, was 1 point off top 4 and in a European final.
Mm.
So I don't think people looked at that. And look at that squad, Emilio. Look how bad it was.
Yeah.
And we got
Yeah.
into a European final. Well, sorry, Europa League final. I always say
Mm.
European final. Europa League final with that squad: Bellerin, Mustafi, David Luiz, Kolasinac. Like,
Mm.
come on, man. Dani Ceballos, El Neni, Maitland-Niles, obviously Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette were two of the only players we had really back then. So I think when we look at it now, complete chop and change, Emery's gone on since then and has won another Europa League with Villarreal by beating Arsenal and Man United. People forget. Then he's gone to Villa, taken, okay, they shouldn't have been down in 17th, in my opinion, anyway, but they were. And he's taken them up to nearly get them into top 4 at one stage, let alone get into the European Conference League place. He deserves a lot of credit. I'm looking forward to see what he does, and it's good to see, man. It really is. I'm a fan, and I thought he was treated very, very harshly by some of the Arsenal fans by taking the mick out of him and saying that he can't speak English, all this crap. For me, he's laughing in everyone's face now. And, you know, people were saying, I don't want him at Newcastle. I want Eddie Howe instead. I want Eddie Howe. I love Eddie Howe. They could have done a hell of a lot worse than if you would have got Unai Emery as well. Let me tell you, there's no way you've escaped anything there in Newcastle. He's a top talent, in my opinion. This is the last question of the night, and it's a good one. I can't lie, because it's all for all three of us. This is coming from Steve Reynolds, who says, Dan, Pete, and Emilio, which player who's been signed by another club would you have liked to have gone for? Pete, let's start with you, bro. I know what you're going to say, but go on. I bet I know who you're saying. I bet I know.
Yeah. I would have.
There's two, actually. There's two, I suppose. But go on.
No, there's three.
There's three. Okay.
Anyone from Madison, Zlaboslai, or Moussa Diaby. Any one of those three. I'd have taken any one of them at the club this summer, and that would have significantly improved us.
I think that's a great shout. I'm going to go next. I'm going to go James Maddison, and I hate it because he's gone to Spurs. I'm a massive fan. I really have. Like, everybody knows how much I loved him. And I said when Ødegaard wasn't really delivering in terms of goals and assists for us for a couple of seasons before this amazing season he's had, I was saying, look, James Maddison, 18 goals, 16 goals, 12 goals, whatever he was getting each time. And everyone was like, slating me for it because obviously Ødegaard's been amazing. I never said Ødegaard was shocking. I always thought that James Maddison was delivering more at the time. And then he goes to Tottenham. Now I don't want him. I hate him. But I must say he's top player. And I'll throw another name out there. Because Diaby, you know me, Pete. Me and you are very similar in terms of Maddison and Diaby, of course. I think Tonali could be a very, very good player. A very, very good player at Newcastle. And I think where Arsenal are in terms of their midfield right now, he would have slotted in lovely. So, yeah. There we go. We're only supposed to pick one and we both picked three. Emilio, what are you going for, bro?
Look, I can go and say, look, I want Declan Rice to replace Palhinha. Let's be realistic.
Of course, you've got to be realistic, I suppose, yeah.
Palhinha's better than Declan Rice anyway. So,
yeah, you go, man. Yeah.
From a realistic perspective, it's a good question, Steve. Look at Rodrigo, for example. I think he would have been a good signing for Fulham. He'd left Leeds United. I think he could have come in and done a good job for us. I think I'm trying to be realistic here.
Emilio? I missed
Rodrigo.
that.
Rodrigo.
Oh, okay.
I think didn't he go for like 2 million or something?
He went for
there was a deal. There was a release clause or something, wasn't there? If he went down or something,
he would have been a good signing for us. And there's all So for me, I think he's one that we've missed a trick there. But like I said, it's a good question, Steve. Who else is there? I think good. Could I say Hunderhand as well has gone? From Man City again. But let's be realistic. That's why I'm trying to be realistic here. So for me, the one that springs to mind is probably Rodrigo. So we were linked with him, but then I don't know why we pulled out from that.
Not going to go for Johnny Evans at United then.
No, not at all. No, we could do better than that.
I couldn't believe that when that come up the other day. I couldn't believe that. I was like, what is going on here? You know when you have to look and think, have I gone back to 2008? Like, what's going on here? What is
I did that when you sent it, Potts. When you sent it, I was like, what? I had to click in. It was like, are you sure you're right?
I couldn't believe it. When it comes up like yellow bar on Sky Sports News, I was
Yeah.
thinking, I don't get this. Am I right reading this right? Does that say Johnny Evans or is that saying something else? You know, and you think this cannot be right. There's of course rumours have come now to say that he's coming in pre-season, and I don't know if he's going to stay or what it is at the moment. There's I don't know, but at the moment I think they're getting him. It's crazy, but there we go. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you first of all of you for being here. Make sure you do me a favor and like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 11k as quickly as possible. Make sure you go over to the Cottage Talk and to @Teddy Nello and follow Emilio and all of his Fulham colleagues, and do exactly the same with Pete at Dave's 2010 and at Loaded Mag NUFC. What are you on now, subscriber wise, Pete? What are you getting to next target?
Very close to 6k. We're
Well done, man.
just trying to get over that hump. So if you can come and support us, click that subscribe button. We've got loads of content. We had Graham Bailey from 90-Minute Podcast tonight. Journalists come on and join us. Really interesting discussion about St. Maximin, who is never rated, by the way. So it was always a conversation. And there's one or two other players that he thinks Newcastle will move on as well, and links with obviously players and stuff. So lots more content to come. Come and join us. And click the subscribe. But first, click the subscribe here before you come over to us, and click the subscribe over with Loaded Mag NUFC.
Appreciate that, Pete. Nice one. And make sure you go support these guys. Make sure you go follow them on socials. You'll hear a lot more from them, and you'll see us regularly on this channel, as you know. We're going to be back tomorrow night with another show. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take care. Smash the like button on your way out. Hit subscribe. We'll see you next time. Up the Arsenal. Take care, people.
Cheers. Take care, guys.